Okay, all right, and so we'll give it our official, again, thank you very much, Jennifer Shukaitis. I'm getting better at this every
time. It's
for
better.
For this Sitting the Silent Killer. And as I said, Jennifer, she's an MPH, she's an assistant professor, educator at the FCHS Rutgers Cooperative Extension Group. And I'm looking forward to really this timely topic of us all. As we are sitting here listening, we'll maybe do a little bend and stretch afterwards. But thank you, and right now I will mute everyone except, and I will unmute Jen. So thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and hello everyone. Thank you for coming. And as Linda said, my name is Jennifer Shukaitis, and I work in Rutgers at the Cooperative Extension. Before I start with the topic for today, I'm just going to give a brief introduction to what Cooperative Extension is, in case any of you are not familiar with it. So Cooperative Extension is actually a national system. There is a Cooperative Extension in every state, and the Cooperative Extension is run out of the land-grant university in each state. So in New Jersey, that happens to be Rutgers. And so the Cooperative Extension was established about 100 years ago. And the mission of the Cooperative Extension is to really be the bridge between the university and the community. So originally, when we were established, it was really geared more towards the agricultural community. 100 years ago, we didn't have smartphones and Google and access to information right at our fingertips the way we do today. And so there had to be a way to get all of the information and research that was going on at universities out into the community to the rest of the people. So the Cooperative Extension was established with that in mind. And so Cooperative Extension agents, as we used to be called, so people like myself, used to actually take out the latest in research and information out to the community. Again, mainly at that point for the agricultural community. Food is pretty important, as you might, hopefully you agree. And so when there was new information about how to grow things, etc., people needed to know this information in a timely way. So Cooperative Extension came to be. So over the years, our mission has evolved a little bit. We're no longer mainly focused on agriculture, at least in New Jersey. We've spread out, to cover more issues. And so there are 4 main departments in Cooperative Extension, actually 5, sorry. So the first one, where I'm from, is Family and Community Health Sciences. And we are faculty that do education in health and nutrition. And then there's a 4-H, which I'm sure most, if not all of you have heard of. Maybe you've attended the 4-H fair in the summer. Didn't happen this year, but maybe in the past. There's agriculture and natural resources, which I was just talking about. There's SNAP Ed, which is nutrition education for those who are using SNAP benefits, or used to be called food stamps. And there's the expanded food and nutrition education program. So those are the departments that are under Cooperative Extension. We're county-based, and so there's a Cooperative Extension office in every county. There are staff and faculty from each of these departments in every county, and they're available as a free resource, or sometimes very low resource, depending on what the need is for the community. So that's where I'm coming from. So everything that we offer is evidence-based information. So you can rely on us to bring you reliable information. Okay, so now that we have talked about that, we are going to get into why you came today. Here's just a little overview of what we're going to cover today. So we're going to talk about how much we actually are sitting each day. And I know there's a little irony in this because we're all sitting in front of our computers this whole time watching or listening to me. Not much opportunity for movement right now, but that's actually why it's a timely topic. We're going to talk about how sitting has changed over the last few decades and what effects that has had. What does prolonged sitting do to our bodies? How does it affect our health? And what we can do to combat the effects of prolonged sitting. Okay, so some things to remember first. First, that health and wellness are multifaceted. So sitting is not the only thing that affects our health. So as I'm talking about what to do to combat sitting, it's only one aspect of health. Health is, you know, many, many, many factors. So eating a balance more frequently, doing best to maintain social important factors in maintaining good health. So how much of our day is actually spent sitting? Let's just kind of take a look at like maybe an average day for a lot of us. Okay, so work time is 8 to 10 hours if we're lucky, right? Sometimes it's more. The average commute for Americans is 26.6 minutes, or, you know, that's about roughly 1 hour round trip. So that's 1 hour a day. Many of us have longer commutes. That's about the average. Screen time, and screens are, as we know, very prevalent these days. So that includes TV, phones, computers, electronic games, social media, etc. Webinars too. Sleeping, not technically sitting, but it's inactive time, right? So that's between 6 and 9 hours. Again, if we're lucky, we get that much. So let me just catch up with my notes here. I printed out old school notes to make sure I didn't forget anything. So when we add up all the time we spend sitting or at rest or sleeping, it can range from 15 hours a day to almost an entire 24 hours. So over the last few decades, deindustrialization and increased sedentary employment have played a role in the fact that we are just sitting more, and we in general are, you know, engaging in decreased physical activity. So just some numbers, these are interesting to me. So in the years between 1950 and 1970, about 30% of the population were employed in high activity occupations. So things where they were moving a lot. Maybe they were employed in factories and they're walking back and forth a lot, or farming is a high activity occupation, things like that. Between 1970 and 2000, it was decreased to 22.6% of the population. And I just noticed there's a typo in there. Sorry, I'll have to fix that. But let's look at the other side of that coin. So now in 1950, about 23% of the population was engaged in low activity occupations. 1970, this is the same time period as before, 41% of the population was employed in low activity occupations. That's 33.7 million people. And in the year 2000, also 41% or 58.2 million people with the population increase. And that is, you know, due to a lot of things. You know, we just tend to be employed in industries that are lower activity these days. Technology is wonderful for a lot of things, but technology also means that we no longer have to do physically a lot of the things that we used to have to do. So we are sitting a lot more in front of computers, in front of paperwork and things like that. And so this has resulted in us just not moving nearly as much as we used to, and more people not moving as much. Okay. More changes over the last few decades. So there, again, advanced technology and transportation. We just don't need to move as much anymore. And so when we don't need to do something, we tend not to do it. Right? So we have a decreased need for physical activity. You'll see I use the abbreviation PA in this presentation. That stands for physical activity. Okay, so we just don't need to engage in as much physical activity as we used to in our daily lives. More people have cars. There's Uber, there's cabs, right? So we don't need to walk as much. We don't need to drive. We don't need to walk to the train station or ride our bikes, right? We are driving a lot more. This will, you know, this is also dependent on maybe where you live. I remember I was living in New York City several years ago, and my friend from Michigan came to visit me. She had never been to New York before. And she was there for 2 or 3 days. And on the second or third day, I said to her, oh, let's, you know, go to this one restaurant I like. It's just, you know, down the street. And she was like, okay, can you please define down the street? Because last time you said that, we walked like 25 blocks. So, you know, depending on where you live, I had gotten so used to walking everywhere so much that I didn't even notice when I walked like, you know, maybe a couple miles. It was just nothing. So this could change depending on where you live, but in general, people are just moving a lot less. Okay. Our sources of entertainment and enjoyment are more sedentary also than they used to be. So in 1950, about 10% of households had a TV. Now 98% of households have at least one TV, often more. Okay. We also are using video games, social media, you know, computers for entertainment and to pass the time more than we ever used to. And those are all activities where you're just kind of sitting there, you know, you're not moving. So studies show that there has been a slight increase in people exercising the last 20 years. There has been some recognition that, okay, you know, I'm sitting a lot, I'm not moving as much during the day, so I should increase my exercise. However, we're not really seeing the health statistics improve that much. So, you know, I guess it's a trade-off. So I know this is hard to see. This is one of the drawbacks of you know, webinars like this, is that it's, you know, a little bit tricky to see. So hopefully, do you know if, Linda, if I can use a pointer on this, on Zoom?
I don't know.
Available? Don't know. That's okay. That's all right. I'll try to just kind of talk everybody through it. So on your screen, you're looking at maps of the US. And so I know the writing is really small. So on the upper left of the screen there, that one map, that is a map of, shows the year 2011. Right under that on the left-hand side is 2012. Below that is 2013. In the middle column on the top, that's 2014, then 2015, 2016, and all the way on the right, 2017, 2018. So it goes kind of chronologically. So hopefully that makes sense. So the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, published these maps, and these show the percentage of the population that is obese in each state over time, okay? So if you look at 2011, so basically the darker the color, the greater the concentration of the population is categorized as being overweight or obese in that state. So you can see the color key on the side there. I know it's small, but you get the idea that at the top there, that number is less than 10%, less than 20%, and then it gets more and more and more as the colors get darker. So if you just look at the differences, and I just have to move my screen there a little bit. If you look at 2011, so on the upper left-hand corner compared to the lower right-hand corner, 2018, you're going to see a big change in the colors there, right? So and that's just been the kind of the trend of overweight and obesity over the last several years. So from 2011 to 2018, we have seen just a steady increase in the percentage of adults who are diagnosed as being overweight or obese in that category. So as I mentioned in the first slide, health is a multifaceted issue. It's not just sitting that's you know, causing all this, but it certainly is a contributing factor. So this is one of the reasons why it's, you know, just so important. Is that clear? I want to just pause. I know that we're waiting till the end for questions, but I want to make sure that this was kind of visually okay.
No, you can see the colors moving through, unfortunately, and in such a short amount of time. You're just talking 1 year after the next
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing in Colorado, but they seem to be holding out. Okay. So just something to think about. So what do we think is the biggest health issue that's caused by prolonged sitting? Just sit on that for a second. I'm going to go over a few terms. Just in the next few slides, it'll make a little more sense. So our basal metabolic rate, or BMR, that is the energy we need to keep our body functioning at rest. So when we're sitting down, just the amount of energy that is needed to just keep us going. Okay. Metabolic equivalents, or METs, that is a measurement of energy cost in relation to the BMR. So one MET is the energy you spend sitting at rest. So an activity with an MET value of 4 means that you're exerting 4 times the energy as you do when you're sitting still. I know it's a little thing. Does anybody want me to say that again? I can't really see. So all right. And then physical activity, PA. Doesn't necessarily mean exercise. It just means moving around, different things. Okay. So what are the effects of sitting? So as you sit down, your calorie expenditure decreases to roughly 1 to 1.5 METs. Okay. So increased sitting time leads to decreased energy expenditure. Makes sense, right? You're sitting, you're not moving, you're not expending your energy. Okay. So food is energy intake, right? And when I say energy, I'm referring to calories. Okay, so calories give us energy. And what we're seeing now is a higher energy intake, and decreased activity expenditure, energy expenditure. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So sitting is certainly leading to, to this issue. Going back to the maps we just looked at, we're starting to see that trend play out in our health. Okay. So one of the physical effects that we definitely see with prolonged sitting, okay, sitting for just 3 hours causes a decrease in artery dilation, okay? Over time, this causes artery stiffness, which leads to increased risk for hypertension and cardiovascular disease. Okay. So our normal arteries are flexible, so they dilate when the heart beats to allow for increased blood flow. Okay. Regular blood pressure, normal blood pressure is below 120/80. Now that's a very middle of the road number. That's like the number for like a male of average height and weight, etc. So there is some variability there, but we're going to use this number just as like a reference point. Okay. Compared to stiff arteries, which are not flexible, can lead to high blood pressure, which is over 120/80, give or take. Okay. Can also increase your risk for stroke, increase the left ventricle load, and hypertrophy, where the blood returns to the heart, making the heart work harder. Okay, so work harder even though you're not expending the energy. Okay, so that's after just 3 hours. So at 4 hours, sitting causes a decrease in cerebral blood flow, increasing risk of neurodegenerative diseases. So that includes Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Huntington's disease, among some others. Bone health, another reason, another concern for prolonged sitting time. So your bone mineral density decreases with sitting. And research shows that in men, the effects of this seem to be reversed with moderate to vigorous physical activity. In women, we don't tend to see that reversal so much with the same level of moderate to physical activity. So in one study, men spent more time doing moderate to vigorous physical activity than women in each age group. Men also had shorter sedentary bounds, meaning they broke up their sedentary behavior more frequently. So there's ongoing studies in this, but women don't seem to enjoy the effects as readily as men do. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Okay. Sitting for 7 to 11 hours increases the amount of insulin release relative to glucose level. So this can increase your risk for diabetes. Even if your food intake matches your energy expenditure, so in other words, even if you're eating the same amount of calories that you're burning, increased sitting time can still have negative effects on insulin action, okay? And insulin is the key that opens your cells to store excess glucose for later use, because too much glucose in the bloodstream can wreak havoc on our organs. Okay, so when there's an increased amount of insulin release given the same amount of glucose, something isn't right, and over time, this can increase our risk for diabetes. Okay. Same amount of time, sitting for 7 to 11 hours increases dyslipidemia. Okay, so that's an increase in risk for cardiovascular disease again. Okay. And just a side note, between 1 and 2 days of bed rest causes increased insulin resistance, which means that cells require more insulin to open, and increased insulin secretion, you know, regardless of BMI, regardless of body mass index. All right, so continuing on, the recreational sitting or leisure time sitting is also correlated with increased mortality and cardiovascular risk, regardless of physical activity participation. So sitting for more than 4 hours a day increases risk by 125% over those spending just 2 hours a day. Okay. We see this a lot where people, you know, exercise very vigorously for like an hour a day, or maybe, you know, for a few times a week, and think that that's enough to combat the effects of sitting. But what we're seeing as we're able to study this issue more and more, as more and more people are sitting more and more, is that that's not necessarily the case. Okay. So just 1 additional hour of sitting per weekend day increases risk of metabolic syndrome, regardless of physical activity level. Again, getting that extra physical activity doesn't necessarily combat this. Okay. And increased risks for various chronic disease and all-cause mortality caused by prolonged sitting are independent of moderate to vigorous physical activity. Again, just studies show that we can't necessarily combat the effects of sitting for hours and hours and hours each day by just getting a shorter amount of vigorous activity. Okay, the active couch potato phenomenon, that's what I've been kind of talking about. So getting 150 to 300 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity a week, but still sitting a significant portion of the day, which may sound familiar to some of us, or maybe many of us, or all of us. Okay. So sitting time significantly increases all premature mortality risks regardless of exercise, is what it kind of boils down to. So now that I've scared the heck out of everybody, does it seem hopeless? It's not. It's not. There are ways to ensure that you are increasing your physical activity. Okay. So what can we do? I mean, you know, little things can really help to combat this. So running up and down the stairs at work, when you get up to go to the bathroom, maybe if you have stairs in your house, run up and down a couple times, walk down the hallway a few more times, you know, than you need to, just to get up. Bench press my desk, bench press my dog, my child, my spouse, you know, finding little ways to fit in exercise throughout the day really, really does make a difference, you know, to combat that, you know, those prolonged stretches. As I mentioned, after 3 hours, there are certain risks on your health. After 4 hours, there's more. After 7 to 11 hours, it's even more. So if you can break up the day and get little breaks in there, you're going to be able to combat those long stretches of sitting, and then the health effects that go with it. Okay. This used to be easier, biking to and from work, before a lot of us went remote, which I am now also. So we don't really have the chance to bike to work anymore, or walk, or anything. But if you're going to the grocery store, if you are dining out, going to restaurants, if you're going to do socially distant, you know, hangouts with friends or family, consider walking, consider riding your bike, just to break up the day and get more physical activity in. You know, bring the kids with you, get the kids involved. I have young kids at home, and so when I know that when they move, I move, right? That can be a motivator. And when they see me move, then they are motivated to move as well. You know, I'll do a yoga video and my 4-year-old wants to do it with me. She was teaching a friend of ours to do yoga the other day because she knows, you know, she sees me do it. So involving the kids really, really can help to ensure that you're getting that movement in every day. Okay. So getting up and moving for just 3 to 5 minutes every, you know, 45 minutes or so, that will help. Okay, this can help to prevent that arterial stiffness that I was talking about and maintain your vascular health. It can help to prevent that insulin insensitivity that I was talking about. It can help to increase blood flow to the brain, so it can actually help you to think more clearly too when you're moving. increases overall energy expenditure. In short, burns calories. That's what that means. And also standing may not be enough. I know that standing desks are a big trend now, and that is most likely better than sitting, but combat the sort of active couch potato syndrome that we see, or we don't know yet if it's really all that much better for your health than just sitting, if you're just standing still all day. Does that make sense? If you have a Fitbit, I have one, I'm wearing mine right now. Mine has a reminder set. So if I've been sitting for, if I haven't gotten at least 250 steps in 50 minutes, every hour, it zaps me. It sends me a reminder. You have this many steps to go before you get 250 steps this hour. And let me tell you, it works. I will get up, I will put my Zoom meetings on pause, and you know what? I got to run to the bathroom. I'll be there in a second, and I'll put my video off. I'll turn my sound on mute, and I will just walk around my bedroom, because that's where my workspace is now, until I get my 250 steps. Something about like that reward system, it works. We all want that. It gets a little, it gets the happy feeling in our brain when we get that reward for the 250 steps. So that's a great way to, just keep track of yourself and make sure you're getting in, more physical activity than you might otherwise. Okay, I kind of went through some of this stuff. But taking those little breaks really can add up. If you don't have to keep your camera on for a particular Zoom meeting at work, I'd recommend, I know we can't always do it, but if it's appropriate, shut off your camera, keep listening to your meeting, but walk around the room. I've gotten well over 1,000 steps just doing that for like a half-hour call, which is significant. If you're aiming for 10,000 steps a day or 5,000 steps, that's a significant percentage of your steps per day, according to your, my Fitbit. If you're going for a coffee refill, do some stretching exercises. Put the cup down first, make sure you don't spill. If you're just on a regular phone call, not a Zoom call, walk around while you're talking. Get those steps in, march in place. There's so many resources out there too, at home or during working hours. If you're watching TV, make commercials count, stand up and move. If you are sitting a lot during work hours, there's so many videos out there that you can do now. There's yoga videos, there's chair stretching videos. A lot of them are 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, if you Google or go to YouTube and search, stretching video, 5 minutes, you're going to get results that will pop up. Yoga, 10 minutes. I've done that plenty of times. And one benefit of working from home, we can all wear yoga pants to work now. So keep those yoga pants on and get ready to do a little exercise when you can fit it in. Go for a short walk after dinner. Don't maybe just go right from your desk to downstairs to the kitchen or dining room and then back upstairs again. Get outside, go for a walk. Get those movements in. If you need some ideas for how to get more physical activity in, there's a bunch of websites here, and I can email these to Linda, and she can email them out to you.
I definitely will. I will do these.
Yeah. And we also have lots of resources on our website at Rutgers. We have fact sheets and videos that can show you how to incorporate more physical activity into your day. So I'd recommend checking out our website as well. And that's what I've got for now. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so if somebody has questions, if they want to unmute themselves, or like I said, or you could type it into the chat. I did have a question when you were giving those numbers too, when you were saying the 4 hours or so. Does that mean throughout the entire day, or the simple fact of breaking it up for that 60 minutes, does that reset your number?
Breaking it up definitely helps. That's for like a stretch. I mean, yeah, 4 hours in a row. And I mean, if you get up and walk 5 steps to the bathroom and 5 steps back, that's not really enough. You want to kind of make an effort to get, a little more activity in. I wish I could give you like a number, like if you take 55 steps, that'll, guarantee that you're breaking it up. I can't give you like an exact number that's going to guarantee that that's going to combat the, the effects, but making sure that you do take those breaks it can be 3 minutes where you're walking vigorously back and forth. You know, that's definitely going to help. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
And I actually, do you have one, Drew?
I do, actually. Didn't you ask us a question during the presentation, told you, and you were going to give us an answer?
Yeah, I mean, I was going through, and it's basically cardiovascular health is the biggest risk. So, and that can, you know, mean a number of things. It can mean high blood pressure, but all that can lead to various cardiovascular diseases. Yeah. Diabetes is also a risk. I don't know if I can necessarily say that one is, you know, the worse than the other. It depends, but you know, those are the two greatest risk factors. Is, you know, leads to cardiovascular disease and could also increase risk for diabetes.
And pain-wise, I think we were talking at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of back pain,
yeah,
more since I am working at home than I had when I was going into Manhattan.
Mm-hmm. I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, hunched over your computer, your posture can really be affected. I mean, there's, again, those things will help. Even doing those chair stretching exercises, I had those. I didn't really go into too much. You know what? My camera was covering them, so you know. Here's like a little coffee break workout you can do. 10 squats, 10 lunges, 10 side swings, 10 mug taps, 10, you know, 20 slow twists, 20 mug raises, coffee mug, 20 arm rotations, you know, 20 count hold, just holding it, you know, isometric hold. 30 seconds arms to the front hold, 30-second arms to the side, just holding it like this. It expends more energy than just, you know, sitting there. 30-second tricep dip hold. This is, you know, raising yourself up and down on a couch or a chair. 30-second raised legs hold, 30-second chest squeeze, and 30 single leg squat hold. So just, you know, and that'll take what, 3 minutes or so, 4 minutes. If I could do math, it'd be dangerous. But that can definitely help, because when you're sitting in one position, yeah, you do get stiff, and that can lead to pain.
Okay, there was also a question in the chat. Is lying down any better than sitting?
No, actually, if we go back to the beginning here, one of the first slides, bear with me, you'll see that lying down it's inactive time is basically what it comes down to. Yeah, I mean, if you're more comfortable lying down, if your back is bothering you or something, you know, that's fine, but it's not gonna, it's counted the same as inactive time, which is also sitting. I was talking about hours per day. I'm sorry. There we go. Yeah, sleeping, which is lying down. Actually, you burn more calories sleeping than you do just laying there awake, which is funny. Any other questions?
No, and I think it is what you said though too. It is important to remember to, same thing too, to stretch when you are sitting so much. I notice it very much so of myself. And if we are walking around less, we do need to consciously counteract that.
Yes, and I would highly recommend looking for videos. YouTube is just chock full of exercise videos, and there's a lot of simple ones, but it's a great way to just ensure that you actually are getting a good stretch in. Like if I just do it myself, I might not like think to stretch certain areas that I would if I were being led by someone who knows what they're doing. So I do like 5-10 minute yoga videos frequently. There's a channel that I love called Yoga with Adriene. She's wonderful. She's got a great just personality. She's easy to follow. She's and has all levels. She's got introductory videos. And it's great for just when, like, you know, I'm feeling a little icky, got to get something in.
Well, yeah, because unfortunately it's the same where we are staying home more. A lot of us have not gone back to our gyms or back to our regular routine. So it's creating a new routine and consciously thinking about doing that.
Yeah, yeah. And I would highly recommend, you know, getting some kind of tracking device. It really, really makes you aware of how little or how much you're moving. You know, like I said, like the Fitbit or something. I know there's a lot out there now. There's the Apple Watches. There's, you know, there's inexpensive ones too. You don't have to spend a lot of money to get something that is just going to allow you to keep better track of how much or how little you're moving.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if you do really vigorous exercise like cardio, and then you find that makes you really kind of tired that day and don't move much the rest of the day,
Mhm.
do you think that in general it'd be better for your cardiovascular health to do like less rigorous exercise that could allow you to move more that day? Or like, do you find that there's a kind of a way to balance that where like, does it kind of negate the effects if you do a really
Oh,
intense
you just
hour
froze, I'm sorry.
day?
Yeah, that's that active couch potato syndrome that I mentioned before. Let's see if I can find the slide. But that is, I think, what a lot of people tend to think. Like, well, I went like, you know, I sprinted for 40 minutes this morning. I've got my heart rate pumping, so now I can just kind of hang around the rest of the day. But that doesn't necessarily negate the effects of sedentary life for the rest of like several sedentary hours in a row. So if you're finding, and if you do have like a heart rate tracker, you can track your heart rate that way too. Like if you find that your heart rate is getting up into that peak zone for like a prolonged period, maybe monitor it that way and, you know, go into like your, you know, slightly lower level for a longer period of time instead of forcing yourself into that peak. And you might find that you're less tired and able to actually have more energy throughout the day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, I'm going to stop going through the slides because I know that's distracting.
Okay.
Trying to find the couch potato one.
Okay, and there was another question in the chat. What do you suggest to prevent osteoporosis for women if exercising is not particularly helpful?
So
and you and I were talking about that was something that is an interesting topic that I wanted you to talk about.
Yeah. So, yeah, I may be giving a talk on bone health later. So exercise does help osteoporosis, especially higher impact exercise. So things like, you know, running as opposed to yoga, you know, they build up the bone density. Also, you know, getting your calcium in and protein in are ways also to help osteoporosis. I could go on about that forever. That's a whole other topic unto itself. But in general, yeah, diet and then high impact activities.
Okay, so if we have any other questions or.
And I'll send my contact information and then the resources that were at the end there. I'll send them to you, Linda, so maybe you can email them on to people who are.
Absolutely, we'll absolutely share that. And as we were saying before, we were talking a little bit earlier about osteoporosis, and I think you and I will connect about that topic as well. So I would like to thank Jen very much for this presentation today, and I would like to thank everybody for participating. And again, if you do have a follow-up question that you think of afterwards, if you want to email me, and I'll be more than happy to just share it along, and we'll hopefully get some remind ourselves that we have to stay healthy while we're still staying home.
Very important.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks to all of you. Thanks for coming.
It was important.